Welcome everyone to the regular council meeting, Monday, January 23rd, 2023. Members of the, just so everyone knows that members of the public can be present in the committee room during the meeting. And we also record the meeting and we'll have it on the city website under their videos so that you can watch it over Zoom. And the Zoom link will be attached to the meeting at the city City of Trail minutes. Sorry. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes. And tonight we have 3 sets of minutes. The first one is the Governance and Operations Committee meeting of January 9th, 2023. The second one is the regular council meeting of January 9th, 2023. And the third one is the special council meeting of January 11th, 2023. The recommendation is before you. So can I have someone make that a recommendation, please? Councillor Martin, seconder, Councillor Benson. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried unanimously. So tonight we have a delegation and it is Mallory Moore from the Kootenay Career Development Society, and she is here to speak on the Peers program. So I will hand it over to Mallory. Sorry, let's spin around here for a sec. So I can see you. Hi, Mallory. Go ahead when you're ready.
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm gonna actually turn it over to Jocelyn Carver in a moment, but before I do, is it possible for me to share my screen? We have a PowerPoint we'd like to share as well.
Yes, you will be able to share your screen.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and maybe I'll pass it over to Jocelyn while I'm figuring out the tech. She can introduce us.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Carver. I'm the Executive Director of Kootenay Career Development Society, and I'll introduce my colleagues and our program partners in a moment. I just wanted to thank you very much for making time in what I know is a busy schedule for all of you. We're very excited to first tell you a little bit about Kootenay Career Development Society, and then focus on a program that we're currently running with our partner, Career Development Services, in the Trail Service area. So as mentioned, I'm here with Mallory Moore. So she works with us at KCDS. She's our Service Accessibility Manager. We also have Janine Garreau, who is the program lead for Peers, overseeing our program delivery in Trail and in Nelson, and Briar Cormack and Sheila Adcock, who are with Career Development Services, and I'll let them speak perhaps a little bit to themselves as they introduce themselves later in the contract. But it is because of them and the strength of the partnership where they are delivering the program, and we oversee sort of the contract and administration of much of it as well. But it's really because of their existence and the strength of the service that they deliver that we can deliver Peers in this community. So I thought I would start by telling you a little bit about KCDS. We are a regional nonprofit employment service agency, so we do quite a bit of workforce development, career development. We run at any given time kind of between 8 and 10 different programs, but as you'll see later, you may know us for the Work BC Centre that we run on Bay Avenue right across from the library. We are, Mallory, maybe you can move us to the second slide now. So really our job is to work with residents of our service areas to explore their career interests, their skill sets, and then help them to find and keep work. And as you can imagine, people come from across the whole spectrum of kind of being ready to find employment. So we work with clients who may need extensive interventions, a lot of support, perhaps return to school, development of what we call soft skills. They may come from any walk of life, or they may just need some help with a resume and you know, some mock interviews to help them get ready to hop back into the labor market. We deliver a variety of programs. We started from an organization called the Nelson and District Community Resource Center many years ago in 2004, and have since that time expanded the region that we serve. So we have now 8 contract partners, organizations that we work with to deliver a whole variety of employment programs. And our service regions go from Big White in the west to Yak in the east, from Nakusp in the north, all the way down to the US border. So we are currently in the trail service area. We have really strong partners with Community Futures Greater Trail and, of course, CDS. We ourselves do direct service delivery. So we do a combination of things. Sometimes we'll hold a contract and we'll subcontract it all to a partner in a community. And sometimes we will deliver the service ourselves. And sometimes we'll do a combination of both of those things. So in the Trail, Nelson, and Castlegar areas, we directly deliver Work BC, as well as a variety of those other programs that you'll see down below. And those programs tend to focus on either a specific economic sector where there's lots of job opportunity, or will focus on a specific kind of client who may be dealing with particular backgrounds or barriers that make them be sort of strong candidates for certain positions or need certain kinds of support in order to be successful in the labor market. So you'll see along the bottom there some of the programs that we're currently delivering, not all of them, but most of them. And the one that we wanted to particularly focus on, as you'll see in a moment, is peers. But before we get there, maybe we can just pop over to the next slide, Mallory. I thought I would give you a snapshot by way of a couple of statistics about one of our COVID years. So this would be a year in which we actually had pretty low client volumes and were not operating at kind of maximum capacity in terms of delivering services. But it gives you a little bit of an idea about the scope of activity that we had during what was for us kind of a slow year. So in the 2021 fiscal year, we brought in 670 more than new residents of the area into one or more of the programs that we deliver. We had at that time about 2,300 active clients. So across with our subcontractors and across programs and service areas, about 2,300 clients we were actively working with. One of the primary things that we do as an organization, so we do a lot of employment counseling, and we also do a lot of flowing through of financial supports. So that could come in a whole variety of ways. We could support people to go to Selkirk College to take some programming for an in-demand job opportunity. We could support people with transportation so they can get to and from work. Childcare, mental health support, wage subsidies to employers. And I mentioned that one partly because we're seeing this as a hugely expanding part of what we're doing. So we work with hundreds of employers across our region and help them to onboard and train and provide the support and supervision that are needed to really launch employees successfully into new positions. And we support that through wage subsidy programs. Which almost all of our programs have wage subsidies associated with them. So when you're working with a KCDS or a CDS client, you are almost automatically accessing some necessary supports, financial supports for your new employee as well. In that kind of slowish year, we had about 340 wage subsidies that were active across our service community. And what I can say anecdotally since then is we've just seen that number kind of go through the roof. In fact, some of most of our funding comes from a couple of different provincial and one federal ministry. And we heard from some of our provincial funders that were really on the radar because of the extent to which employers in our region are accessing wage subsidies for our programs. So we do a lot of wage subsidies. moving along, perhaps, and here I will pass the baton to one of my colleagues to talk a little bit about our Peers program, which is a very special program. We're really, really proud of the work that the clients in this program are undertaking and doing that with the skilled support of Sheila and Briar. So before we ask them for some of their impressions of delivering the program, I'll pass it on to, and am I passing it on to Janine or to Mallory to sort of introduce us a little bit, to Mallory to introduce us a bit to the program.
Thanks, Jocelyn. And I will just preface by letting folks know that I'm just getting over COVID. So I'm feeling a little less on the ball than usual. So if I'm making less sense than you hoped I would, that's probably why, but I'm going to do the best I can. So thank you so much, Jocelyn, for that introduction. Again, my name is Mallory. I'm the Service Accessibility Manager at KCDS. And, really the purpose of this presentation is to provide you with a bit of an overview to the Peers program, which has been operating in Trail since the spring of 2021. The program is funded by the Ministry of Advanced Education and Skills Training as a pilot project. And so there were 12 separate versions of this program funded across the province of BC. It was originally scheduled to complete March 2022. And then we received funding for an additional year. And we recently just received word that funding's been extended a second time. So we'll be moving into our third year in April 2023. Okay, so what is Peers? And please, Sheila, Briar, Janine, jump in if you feel like I'm not giving the definition enough weight. In short, Peers is an employment readiness program for community members that are homeless or unhoused or at risk of homelessness. In long, Peers is a gateway to economic inclusion and community inclusion for folks in our communities that experience a high degree of stigma and vulnerability. So we know as employment service providers that this population of folks is often not well served through traditional employment programs. That's where Peers comes in. The program offers three main components: paid peer employment placements, employment counseling, and skill development and referrals and access to wraparound supports. So these activities are then bolstered and supported by a customized approach to service delivery and flexible financial supports to meet the unique needs of program participants. So it's important to note, for those of you not working 24/7 in employment program world, it's traditional employment programs, they tend to have a bit more rigidity regarding, the supports that they can provide to participants. And our program strives to dismantle that rigidity in an effort to remove barriers for participants. So some examples might include supporting participants with things like cell phones, laptops, medical expenses, fees to complete income taxes, gym passes, that type of thing. So then finally, the last big piece about this program that's worth mentioning is it sets out to answer a number of research questions, ensuring that we collect rich qualitative and quantitative data that can feed back into programming structure and decisions. So some of these questions include things like, in what way does peer employment impact the lives of participants? What type of peer employment jobs are best suited to the target demographic? And then through the collection of this data, we're able to get a really in-depth look into who our program is serving, what works, and what doesn't. Okay, this is our team. So Peers has a partnership model that is regional. So we work with Career Development Services in Trail and Nelson Cares in Nelson. The only reason we can do this is because we have the right service delivery partners. We knew going into this that we needed to have the right partners in order for this program to be successful. And so working with CDS, we're able to not only leverage and benefit from all of the services and relationships that they already have, but the skill that they have in working with this population. And I guess now maybe, I don't know, would this be a good time? Sheila or Briar, did you want to say anything before we keep rattling off? Oh, Sheila, we can't hear you. No.
Oh.
Oh shoot, I'm sorry.
Mm.
We could keep going, and you just yell. You just yell out once your volume works. Am I passing it over to you, Janine?
Yeah, I'll take it from here. Thank you, Mallory.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, and Sheila, when you get that working, feel free just to interrupt me. All right. So one thing that makes this program so successful is the approach that it takes to working with folks and within the community. So next slide. Thank you, Mallory. As you can see, there is a huge emphasis not only on what services are offered, but in how they are delivered. So we work to weave the above principles into all aspects of the program. This includes valuing lived experience, research-focused, long-term support relationship, safe and non-judgmental, of course, non-punitive, as well as strengths-based and anti-impressive practice. So I'd like to stress here that this takes work. Anyone who works in this field and with this population knows that sometimes something as simple as completing an intake can take multiple appointments to build trust and lay the foundation for a safe and productive working relationship. Can you change the slide for me, Mallory? So I also just wanted to bring your attention to the quotes on some of these pages. So part of our data collection involves feedback, surveys, and impact interviews with program participants. So you'll see quotes from both participants and from our participating community partners sprinkled throughout this presentation. All right, so one thing that is a staple of this program is the peer employment placements. So this program, facilitators work with participants to explore their strengths, interest, and then work to build an appropriate work placement for each participant. Sometimes this placement is hosted by their own organization, so it could be Nelson Cares or CDS, particularly in Trail. And sometimes it is hosted by a community partner. So presently, we have 9 community partners who work with us to host peer placements, and that number, of course, just keeps growing. So placements can run for up to from 100 hours, and the participant wage is funded by the program. So we also pay an honorarium to each host to offset any additional training and supervision costs as well. And we do everything we can to simulate a real working environment. So participants are supported, to set up a bank account so they can be paid by direct deposit every 2 weeks. They also submit timesheets for hours worked and generally have a well-defined role and with a job description. These placements are flexible and participants have the security to make mistakes and learn from them. Generally, positions are engaged in supporting the community through roles such as community beautification, that includes litter pickup, graffiti cleanup, those sorts of things, community meal programs, and work in other programs that support our community members. This is invaluable on-the-job training, and folks have a safe and welcoming space to share their skills and practice new ones.
Janine, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, Sheila.
Oh, good. Okay. I don't need to talk now. I just want to see if I actually fixed it. Yes,
Perfect.
I did fix it.
Thanks. That's
So
great,
whenever
Sheila.
you want us to jump in, just let us know.
Will do. Thank you so much, Sheila. All right, so kind of as I was saying, it's a lot of on-the-job training for folks. And many of our participants note during their intake that they have experienced stigma in their communities. And they are looking to rebuild the community reputation and essentially get a second chance to be included as valuable and appreciated community members. Also, just a note, while our communities have been in a constant state of shutdown and reopening throughout COVID, it was great to see that many of the peers participants have kind of held it down. Many have requested that their hours not be cut and that they be given a chance to continue working. So they were very essential through that time period. Next slide, Mallory, thank you. So we had 32 participants come through our program last year, all facing a variety of barriers to work in the traditional labor market. There's a few of them up on your screen there. So upon intake, we asked participants about the barriers they were facing, and this is what they told us. So as you can see, many barriers were and are experienced by most participants. I'm sure this isn't a surprise to anyone in this room. There were a few things that I will note that were a bit surprising. People spoke a lot about stigma. So many participants identified improving their community reputation as a major goal for this program. And it was the majority of participants who had hinted at that at some form throughout their intake or through the survey processes. Many people identified physical health as a barrier. This included disabilities and other ongoing medical issues. And a surprising number of participants shared that one of the greatest barriers to employment is coping with the grief over the loss of family members. Right. So here's a quote from a participant who was able to find paid employment through the participation in the PEERS program. It really highlights, how important the financial supports were to helping overcome finding employment, as well as kind of overcoming those challenges of low self-esteem and shyness, and kind of reconnecting with the community. Right. Next slide, Mallory. So here are some of the community impacts and milestones that we're able to record from our first year of the program. So PEERS does not measure outcomes in the same way as other programs. And as you can see, there were some significant and life-changing impacts and milestones reached and reported on by some of our PEERS participants during their time in the PEERS program. So this includes 78% of participants beginning a job search, 34% having found work outside of the program, and 46% having found housing, as well as 62% having continued on to mental health or substance use treatment. So in addition, there was also a very positive impact to local organizations and businesses that have hosted PEERS, with 100% saying that they would host again. Next slide. Perfect. Thanks, Mallory. So in some cases, the biggest impact PEERS had on participants was a greater sense of community and or self-worth, which of course has led to significant outcomes for some participants in so many ways. There's a few more quotes up on the screen that kind of just talk to those impacts. So these impacts have also included work experience and a sense of purpose. All right, thanks everyone. Mallory, I think I'll pass it back to you here.
Sheila and Briar, are you guys okay if I just wrap this up and then pass it over to you? If you have anything, you don't have to. All right. This is just another quote. We have a lot of quotes in this presentation, and we get a lot of feedback from participants because we really focus on the individual changes that folks want to make and then do make. So as you can see, work isn't just a job. Work means a lot more to folks. It really is about inclusion. It's about meaning. It's about structure. It's about building relationships. There are so many pieces that go into this idea of work. I don't have that many more for you, just two more. This was a quote from one of our PEERS placement hosts. We've had such great experience with organizations and businesses in the community hosting our PEERS in their organizations. Sorry, COVID brain. And 100% have said that they will host again. So we're starting to not only see folks one time sit in a placement with a community institution or organization, but to have ongoing or multiple folks go through and take placements. Okay, and this is the last quote that I wanted to share with you. It's a quote in a drawing that was submitted from one of our participants. So this particular individual noted at intake that one of the main barriers to employment was stigma in the community. Other barriers were a lack of housing and a lack of food. This participant shared that his impact in his impact interview, we offer impact interviews to all participants once they complete the program. He shared that he started the program, he was living in a tent. So through the PEERS program, he was able to gain experience in a kitchen in one of his placements, and then another kitchen in another placement. And then he was able to find a job in the traditional labor market and secure housing because of that job. Now he's applied to and been accepted to go back to school. Maybe before I go there, I'd love to just, if you have anything you want to add, Sheila or Briar, you folks are on the ground, you're working with our participants. If you have anything you'd like to add, please, this would be a great time.
Yeah, now that you can hear me. I just wanted to say I've seen such an impact on the individuals that have accessed services through the Peers program over the past couple of years. When we started up the Peers program, there was a lot of stigma on the ground in the community, and as anybody recalls, there was a whole lot of negativity towards the individuals that were unhoused in the community. And I've seen the benefits of the Peers program twofold. One is for the impact on the individuals that have been able to secure paid employment, building their skills, building their self-confidence in the community, and as well as the community interacting with the individuals that have been accessing services through the program. They started out a lot by being really committed in the downtown core to doing a lot of cleanup, getting rid of graffiti, went up and down Bay Avenue, washing windows, always ready to help anytime they could. And it made a huge impact on the individuals, but the community as well, in thanking them when they saw them out working. And they took great pride in making sure they had their work equipment on and were working safely and interacting in a positive way for once in the community. And I think that was the biggest impact I saw, was their acceptance in the community, as in going from, like you say, zero to hero. And, you know, a lot of times they felt their worth was pretty low to the community. And once they got out working and making some money and getting, you know, a lot of the stuff the Peers program will do will help somebody with dental work, you know, if they're having a lot of dental issues and not feeling good about themselves, but also living in a world of pain with abscesses and stuff. And there's been a lot of dental work done. Eyeglasses, you know, one of the guys was in tears because he hadn't had eyeglasses in so many years. He just couldn't afford it and didn't follow through. So Briar has been exceptional in making sure to build relationships based on trust and respect, and get them out in the community and getting their needs met. Eyeglasses, teeth work. Somebody got insoles for their shoes, stuff like this that individuals never thought that they would be able to access, are now feeling and walking a little bit taller in the community. And like I say, we get lots of positive feedback from the community as well. And working with KCDS has been awesome because they have the same program in Nelson. So weekly we meet as a team and talk about any barriers that have come up, what's worked in other communities, how we can improve on what we do in Trail. And we've been at capacity and over, and watching individuals get mainstream jobs, get into housing, those types of things I think we're getting as much, if not more, out of the program than the participants, because just watching them and listening to they all fill out a exit summary and interview and talk about how the program has made an impact in their life. And reading that has really humbled us in being able to be a part of the journey with them. So I'd like to thank KCDS and like to thank Briar for all her hard work, as well as the city for letting us come and share some of our experiences. And I'm sure you've seen the guys out there working, and they'll continue to do so for another year. Thankfully, now that we have another year's worth of funding, so we're ready to go.
Thank you, Sheila. And thank all of you for listening. I'm going to pass it back to Jocelyn to wrap us all up. Jocelyn, over to you.
Thanks, Mallory. And thanks, Sheila and Briar. Yeah, you know, one of the, I haven't spent my whole life in this sector. This is actually the first nonprofit I worked for in many years. I come from the for-profit and social enterprise cooperative sector. And I have to say, this program, of course, I don't have any favorites, but this is the program that has blown me away with the power it has to change lives for people who are really at the margins, and just to change lives and to change minds. And, you know, in thinking about kind of all the forces that work in our communities, you know, if we think about the economic pressures, what's happening in the labor market with people having a really hard time finding folks to apply for and stay in positions, programs like the Peers program are really becoming the wellspring. Like they're showing us a way that we can navigate a very tricky economy, very tricky times in terms of the social issues that are coming up for all of our communities, and how we can do that in a way that is skilled and really heartfelt. And so it totally won me over. I also love the partnership model, and being able to deliver programs as partners who are bringing their strengths to the table also seems to me like it's pointing in the direction of, you know, how best to deliver services to how can we wrap support around the people in our communities that need that support, so that they can contribute the way they want to in our communities. I thought I would just offer up a couple of ways that you as elected officials and members of your community could support organizations like ours. I'm not here to make a financial request. We really just wanted to make sure that programs like this were on your radar, so that you could ask us any questions you may have and know what's happening in terms of this kind of program. But a couple of things that are really helpful are to have the support of mayor, council, and senior staff when programs like this come up. They often, you know, funding is contingent on a certain level of community support. So by sharing opportunities with this, like this with you, we'd love to continue to share this kind of information and keep you kind of up to date on the programs we think might be a really good fit for Greater Trail. And should you see fit to support them, either with you know, letters of support, or speaking in your own networks to possibly employers who might like to have placements. There's all kinds of definitely non-financial ways to support programs like this that are probably actually the most important. One of the things that's been really helpful for us in some other communities, not just ourselves, but some of our partner organizations, is to actually be involved in economic development initiatives. So, for example, in Nelson, there's the Nelson and Area Economic Development Partnership here. We're members of the LCC DTS, and really to have a seat at the table so that we can provide and point in the direction of resources. So, I mean, I mentioned wage subsidies because it's a really obvious one, but as organizations that are providing services to community members, we often can identify services that also benefit other organizations, whether they're for-profit or not for-profit. And that is really easy to do if we have a seat at the table and can participate in those conversations early on. Then we can help maybe inform them, help access funding, that kind of thing. And then, you know, this is the world we live in, where helping to get the word out means taking the computer out of our pocket and liking and sharing and commenting and that kind of thing. So if you would like to, you can check out kcds.ca. We've got links there to Facebook, Instagram, and of course we advertise in the more traditional ways, but really helping to get the message out there by participating in our social media presence is always appreciated. And I wanted, I think, just to close by just thanking all of you. As challenging as it is for service providers, I know what the environment is, of course, for elected officials, for staff, to be working so hard to hold communities and try and support healthy, vibrant communities. And we feel very privileged to be able to work in this community and have you as our elected leader. So thank you for all of the work that you are doing in community to support our participants, like our peers participants and our employers, and on the list goes. So huge thanks for your time today and for your commitment to the work that you're doing in community as well. That's it for us. We're happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. That was a lot of information, a lot of good information to share with us. I just put it out to council if you guys have any questions or comments or.
Just one comment. At a recent meeting, I was at Communities in Bloom. They spoke very highly of this program and how our contractor with Community in Bloom has worked with KCDS and helping facilitate this program, which I thought was pretty awesome. So thank you for what you do in that program.
Thanks so much. That's really great to hear.
Councillor Hanson?
And I just wanted to share that a business colleague had shared with me that she actually was using the wage subsidy program. And she said it was just outstanding. It was really helping her for her business, getting through things, having to train. It really helped kind of coming out of COVID to have that extra support and getting staff on board. So definitely raised to that program as well.
Thank you so much for that, Councillor. You know, what we're really understanding through this COVID period in particular is that job seekers are one of our clients and employers, businesses are really another client for us. So there's a learning curve that we are on to try and identify how best we can provide support to employers so that they can create jobs and support our job seekers. It's all part of the circle.
Thank you. Hey, there's no more questions or comments. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Oh, I know. I wanted to ask if you have a team in for the Coldest Night event in February.
We do. We are currently getting our teams together. I think we have some in at least one of our communities, and we'll get back to you on our trail team.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Okay, so on to our public question period. And I'm just, because I haven't done a public question period yet, I just want to make sure I'm doing the proper protocol. I'm going to ask Ms. McIsaac if she can explain the process for me.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so at this point in a regular council agenda would be an opportunity for any public members who have questions for council that might relate to items on the agenda or issues that they haven't been able to address with staff to bring forward to council at the meeting. Through COVID, we did ask, as we moved into virtual meetings, we asked for any public members wishing to put questions to council to do so in advance in writing. I believe the information on our website continues to request that because we are now moving into a hybrid meeting approach whereby people can be present in the committee room, but we are continuing to operate on Zoom. So at this time, I am unaware of any questions coming forward from the public for council's consideration or answers at tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McIsaac. We do have some people in the committee room right now with us. I'm sure they have some questions. So I guess I will ask. So when you come forward to speak, I will get you to state your name, please, and your address, and then you can ask your question. Who wants to go first?
You're first. I've got a statement more than
Okay,
a question. My name's Donovan Brown. I live in Fruitvale. I have properties in Trail. So I just wanted to remind council that our recent municipal election centered around the Trail homeless shelter and the resultant degradation of our downtown streets and its impact to our local businesses and families. And I'm not going to bombard you, but we all know why you got elected because we trust you and are really excited that you're going to do something productive about it. So just a reminder, the current council's mandate is not merely to find a new location for the shelter. 12 months was granted to find a new location. And it's the public's expectation, though, that the downtown gets cleaned up of crime, the drug use and all that stuff. Last year, BC Housing stated they had 2 potential locations picked out, but they wouldn't tell us where. And I'd like to know what's the secrecy about. Why can't we find out where these potential locations are? I don't think it's BC Housing's call to dictate how we develop our community or run it. I understand it's about funding, and that's kind of what handcuffs many communities, is access to the funds. So my concern is that I don't want Trail to become an industry of poverty or homelessness, access to more funding, more tax dollars, which is our money, hard-earned money that's taken and given back only on certain conditions, and I just don't agree with that whole premise. I think in order for Trail to be successfully, able to facilitate those programs, it appears it sounded pretty good. You gotta have thriving businesses. You can't have that if the downtown is a mess. So yeah, I'd like to see that we, instead of creating more jobs for the homeless task force or whatever, work in the streets, we protect the businesses around town, create more demand for, young people out of high school getting jobs and people trying to raise families. So it's my opinion that we revert the shelter back to its original 8-bed capacity or somewhere, but not huge, because we could go from 28 beds to 58 beds, 108, and we'll end up like Vancouver or Kamloops, and it's a dismal failure. So I want to remind us that we need to learn from those real-time experiences and not go down that route, that path, because I think that's where we're headed. I understand that council's waiting to hear back from BC Housing. So I want to encourage you to push the issue, because we know that 3 months is going to fly by, 6 months is going to fly by, and then we'll be back to, oh my goodness, we have to agree to this because the deadline is right around the corner, and then we'll be hit with, oh, they're going to freeze to death. We have to agree with it. And I personally don't want to see anybody overdosing to death every day anymore. That's, to me, more important than a few weeks of cold weather, although that is very, very important. So I think we need a shelter, of course, like an emergency shelter for extreme cold weather, but not a 24-hour access to free drugs and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'd like to know where the locations are going to be, and give it to the public lots of time to speak into the issue and see if we agree, and if that's what we're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there someone else that has any questions or?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Gordon Fisher, Trail resident. I have property at 1500 Cedar Avenue, and it's just serendipity that we're here tonight, and I thank you for the time. I'll keep it under 10 minutes as required, because I didn't know the protocol. So I do appreciate the time because of what happened today, and that's what I'm going to relate to you. I went by my property at 3:15 today, and right next door is an alcove, well known, at 1510 Cedar Avenue. And we've had occasion, my wife and I, to remove squatters there maybe 50 to 75 times in the last 2 years, at the risk of our life. I might just throw that in. And there's never been an incident. It's been good, but you never know what's going to happen on the next trip. So we showed up today and no people there. There's a tarp, tented, and so, oh, this is new. Got out of the car, strong aroma of burnt whatever. Go in there, and I have pictures. Maybe I can just pass this around, keep it under 10 minutes here, and just take a second. I'll keep talking when I get sit this up. So I proceeded to go in and see if there was anybody there. There was nobody there. I got back in my car, remaining parked there, phoned the RCMP, and had a discussion with the girl there, explained the situation. And she said, well, Okay, so I'm going to pass this to Alderman Paul. And you can scroll through there. There's 5 photos there. In fact, please pass it around for the Alderman to see. So you know the lay of the land. So I phoned the RCMP. They indicated that they don't want a private property. No problem. And I knew that from earlier situations we've had. And they do remove people, but not materials. So next stop, the bylaw enforcement officer, fortunate enough to catch him, the right-hand man, at 3:20. And he said, we don't want a private property. We will remove materials, but not on private property. So I've gone through now the police, the bylaw enforcement officer, and coming up with no response. So I said, well, because of, you can see the charred stuff on the wall there in the pictures. And the one picture, you don't know what it is, it's ash on the cement, it's burnt cardboard. So next stop, Fire Marshal Dan up at the regional district. And he said he's in conversations with Sergeant Wisenowicz right now. The situation is very fragile. And really, they didn't know what to do. They knew about the situation down there. Usually I'm there every day. Yesterday I wasn't there. It could have been there for 2 days. So if you just scroll that, Colin, you can see there's 5 photos, as I said. So Fire Marshal Dan couldn't help me out. And I'm kind of at my wit's end. I suggested to Fire Marshal Dan, you know, with these fires, I've got a $20,000 cedar fence there, easily catch fire. And if I'm going to my insurance company next, they're going to be saying, well, what have we're not paying for this. You haven't done anything about it. So wait a minute. I've been A, B, C, D. So, okay, we left Fire Marshal Dan. We went over to CDS. We talked to the people there. And they immediately told me, well, that's a bylaw enforcement officer problem. So now I'm just about ready to jump off the bridge. And I suggested that to the lady there because I said, you know what? I'm finding out here, I'm not going to tell you my tax bill, but it's substantial. And I'm at the point where I might as well jump off the bridge because this is hopeless. Where you can't get any action from as a taxpayer. And I've heard numerous comments over the last 4 years when this situation started developing, and I've advocated that this situation deteriorates by the week, maybe just a little bit, but every week it's a little bit worse. And after a year, it's that much worse. And after 4 years, it's that much worse, which is where we are now. In another 4 years, I'm not sure where we're going to be. In the meantime, we're helpless. You know, I don't see. My point being, sorry, I lost the track there for a minute. The term I'm hearing is most vulnerable, and I want to add to the most vulnerable pile the taxpayer, because when that most vulnerable chunk goes, all I can see is a big A for anarchy. So I just want to. So I get home, I'm frustrated. I talk to my wife. She was on the phone. I go to the computer. So when it's council meeting, I go on. I can't believe it. They're meeting tonight. And I don't know if it's Zoom or not. We took a flyer, came down, and I didn't know you had this other presentation. And I just appreciate the time. I have to relay it to you. And congratulations on being the new council. I was here 40 years ago. I know what you're up against. We just blew an hour of your time before you get to your agenda. And I apologize for that, but
No, thank
we
you
got
for.
a problem.
Yeah, no, thank you
So
for.
I'm gonna leave it with you.
Thank you.
And it's hot off the press. That's all I can say. It happened today. That's why I'm here. So I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Gordy.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Board, listen, I just want to say thank you, on behalf of council for coming in.
I'm gonna work with you.
No, but I mean, it takes courage and it takes, it's important to come in and let us know firsthand. You showed us pictures
Thank you.
and I know we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you so
thank you
much.
very much.
Okay.
for
That's
your-
a very receptive council. Thank you.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the good work. All right.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donovan.
Mr. Donovan, are you going?
Not yet.
Okay, let's get back on track if we could. Is there anyone else that wants to address council tonight? Mr. Brown.
We answered it. We don't answer.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm gonna go steer other one, Fifth Avenue, East Trail. I just got a question regarding just some retail here. I know watching the news here with Hudson's Bay reinstituting some of the Zeller stores. I know one's hitting the central interior and three in the lower mainland. I'm just curious whether like last council or even this council here is maybe consider maybe talking and doing some work with Anthem Properties there and trying to maybe hit a space, try to get some retail back into here. A different alternative place to shop, jobs. It's been sitting empty for a number of years. I mean, 2 stores went belly up there, didn't go through. This community are, having to shop online or go out of town or, it's my consideration, when you're trying to shop. Just some
Thank
idea,
you.
right?
No, just a sec. Sorry.
was just gonna ask a
It's
question.
not a question. Yeah, so.
I noticed I missed your name.
Rich Steer.
Rich Steer, thank you. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, sorry for the interruption there.
Of course.
Thank you for coming tonight. Is there anybody else? Any questions, comments before we move on? Okay,
Marty, Macway.
Trail.
Colleen, I sent you a letter and I CC'd it to everybody. I just want to make sure that you got it, where you, like, when we communicate with council, is there some kind of time frame where you will respond, like even acknowledge personally that you received the communication?
Can I just,
We did discuss that tonight on what's happened there, because we usually do have a bit of
Okay,
a response, so I apologize that you didn't get one, and I'll follow up
okay.
on
No,
that.
I just wonder, is
Yep.
there
Again, it's a great question. I'm not quite sure. My understanding is that there should be.
I asked
I'm
that
not-
question
I'm not sure.
yeah.
today.
okay, I was just wondering.
Yep.
Okay.
We did have that conversation, so it's
Awesome.
rather timely that you're here tonight. Thanks for coming. Okay, is there anything else for public question period? Okay,
Well, before we move on, Mayor Jones, we didn't answer.
no,
Can we answer?
no,
No.
no, we just take it as a comment.
Oh, I see. There is no back and forth. Okay. As I go. Anyway, any questions, Brown?
Okay, so next on the agenda is item number 4, communications. And the recommendation before you is the recommendation on the Regional District UBCM 2023 CRI Fire Smart Grant. Can I have someone make that motion, please? Councillor Benson? Councillor Martin? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And item number 4.2 is proclamations. So tonight we have 2 proclamations. The first one is Wear Red Canada Day. And this is a proclamation that is in regards to heart disease is the #1 killer of women worldwide. And it's a Wear Red Canada Day, and in lighting of the town red on February 13th to support women's heart health and to raise awareness within the community. So could I get someone to make that? Councillor Hanson, second. Councillor Benson. All those in favor? Carried unanimously, and I'm sure that will be lighting up the bridge red for that day. The second proclamation is International Purple Day for Epilepsy Awareness. And the recommendation is before you, and so may I have someone make that recommendation? Councillor Butler, seconder, Councillor Martin, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Next on the agenda is the council committee reports. And up first tonight is Councillor Benson.
Thank you. So on January 15th, I attended the Trail Historical Society Annual General Meeting along with your worship and Councillors Wilson, Cashel, and Martin. This September marks the 70th anniversary of the Trail Historical Society. To commemorate the event, they'll be hosting a public event later in the year. And they're going to be selling
replica models of the old bridge in the Riverfront Center gift shop. They had one there to show us, and it was really cool. They purchased a 3D printer on their budget last year and are making these. So I'll look for them for sale. Councillor Cashel and I, just for a Silver City Days update. We started our reoccurring meetings with the Silver City Days Committee. The committee consists of staff members. They've been extremely positive meetings. We're really happy to have the support of city staff and also on board for planning the entertainment for Trail on Stage at the Sidewalk Cafe and Family Day at Gyre Park is Nadine Tremblay from the Charles Bailey Theatre, Charles District Art Council. And she had her first meeting with us today and just brings a whole another level of energy to the table. So we're really looking forward to working with her. So just keep checking our social media pages and silvercitydays.ca for more updates. And then on the Trail Ambassador Program front, the ambassador candidate debut is scheduled for Saturday, February 4th at 7 o'clock at the Clumble Lodge. It's a change in venue from their usual place. It's usually at the KP Hall, but this year the Clumble Lodge will be hosting us. And that is my report. Thank you, Councillor Benson. Any questions or comments? Okay. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. On behalf of council, I attended the following meetings and events. On the 16th of January, I attended an update on the Arrow Lake reservoirs and where we're currently at and where we're going into 2023. On the 17th, I attended with all council, along with yourself, Mayor Jones, a ministerial visit of Minister Kang to the city of Trail. Our tour included the Riverfront Center Library and Museum, a walking visit of our current shelter location, which was attended by the minister, and finished here at City Hall. On the 19th, I attended Columbia Basin Trust presentation to new councils in the region. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Any questions? Comment? Okay. Councillor Cashel.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. On January 18, in my capacity as the City Council appointee to the Seniors Advisory Committee, I was invited to the Society for the Protection and Care of Seniors at the invitation of the Secretary Candace Perella. It was very informative, it was enlightening, it was inspiring to meet this group of very dedicated, committed, passionate people who really care, not just about seniors, but about the community at large. And they're looking forward to participating on the advisory committee. And in that light, I have been in contact with CAO McClure in an effort to try and get information to reactivate and resurrect that committee. And I will be the chair of that committee once it gets going. On January the 18th, I'm the elected appointee from City Council to be on the Trail and District Public Library Board. And it was my first meeting. And I won't get into all the details, but very informative, very interesting. And I'm just really thrilled to be on that board. And I would encourage anyone to that's not connected to the Trail and Regional Library to go on their Facebook page, go on their Instagram, follow them on social media, because they bring a lot of stuff forward that you may not be aware of, but should be. So I just would encourage you to do that. In my capacity as a co-representative for Protective Services, I attended a meeting at the Trail RCMP detachment on January the 19th with Sergeant Wilsinowicz, the Trail Detachment Commander. And it was sort of to do with a letter that came into City Council on January the 11th. The letter was dated January the 9th. It was addressed to Mayor Payton, who of course is no longer our mayor. I'm sure you guys are aware of that. And regarding a meeting that Mayor Payton had with Deputy Commissioner Dwayne McDonald. He's in charge of the RCMP out of E Division. He's in charge of the province. And that meeting was at the UBCM on September the 13th. And it dealt with the pros and cons of decentralization. And that letter was disseminated amongst council and mayor and city staff. And there was questions asked about it. So I brought it to the attention of our staff sergeant, or I'm sorry, of our sergeant. And he didn't have many details on it. He told me that decentralization is being handled by the district office, which of course is in Kelowna. And he's going to put me in contact with his upline officer, Superintendent Dave Gregg, who I've not yet been in contact with, to get more information on the pros and cons of that decentralization, what it exactly looks like. And according to the letter, there was a consultation period that happened here in Trail in 2020, and that Trail apparently fully supports the recommendation of decentralization. But I asked for that report. He didn't have access to it, Sergeant Wasinowich, but he said he would, like I said, put me in contact with Superintendent Gregg, and hopefully I'll get more details for council and for the citizens that might be interested. One thing that Sergeant Wasinowich did say, it will mean that the detachment will go from a sergeant to a staff sergeant, which means that he'll have a sergeant working under him to do operations. So it will free him up to do more, maybe administrative type work. That was about all I could glean from that operation. He's still facing staffing shortages, which have been ongoing for a number of years. That raised the question of a letter. I made a motion back in November about sending a letter on behalf of the RCMP to Superintendent Brad Hogley, who was on the bargaining committee with the RCMP, to have them look at an item that on their HR policy, which allows RCMP members to stay on indefinite medical leave indefinitely. So we have a member here, for example, that has been on medical leave for over 5 years. And the RCMP, Sergeant Wasinowich, they want this changed. They want to get it so that there's other union contracts out there that the RCMP could emulate and copy. They want that practice done, but for some reason there's a stall on it. And so asking the sergeant when he came to a meeting with the mayor and CAO, LaFleur and Councillor Butler, I said, well, what can we do, to kind of bring that to the attention of the RCMP, saying we're not happy with this. He said, well, you could write a letter. So that was a motion I made. I've left that with CAO LaFleur. He's looking into that as well, and I'll try and get that letter back on the table and get it sent off. And I believe that concludes my report, Mayor Jones. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cashel.
Oh, then, okay. I guess you all asked me any questions.
Any questions?
I think Councillor Benson had a question.
Did you, Beth? Councillor Benson?
Just on I think you explained it well in your, I was questioning, I didn't understand what decentralization meant. So thank you very much for your very thorough.
Well, it's a good question, Councillor Benson. I think what it does mean, it means instead of reporting right now to Nelson, Sergeant Wasinowich can report to Kelowna. Now, how does that benefit us? I don't know, but it's the world of the RCMP that we have to deal with. So thank you for your question.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hanson.
Okay, so on the 9th of January, I attended with Councillor Martin and Councillor Cashel and Councillor Wilson, the Columbia River Treaty Columbia River Treaty Local Government Committee put on a webinar that was basically looking at how they are integrating socioeconomic interests in the Columbia River Treaty as they are in the process of revisiting that treaty. Then, of course, on the 17th, it was very enjoyable with Minister Kang and her team. They were very receptive when we all sat down and, told them our greatest concerns. I feel like we were heard very well by them. And then on the 19th, I attended the Lower Columbia Community Development Team Society as Councillor Butler had to send his regrets because he was on a Columbia Basin Trust webinar that afternoon. And it was quite interesting because we had a presentation by the Metal Tech Alley, so Yakmin Von Tander, and as well as Pete Stamper from KC Recycle. As well as Retrieve Technology. And what they're actually looking at putting out a study right now about having a battery hub in Western Canada. And so basically there is no one in the Pacific Northwest that actually recycles batteries other than us. So they are looking at expanding that. And the one thing KC Recycle had mentioned is that they're looking at tripling the size of their business. And in doing so, that also would mean there would be new employment and then a need for more housing, So they're just working through the process of all of that right now. So that's very exciting to see that if that ends up becoming the feasibility study and having it become our battery hub of Western Canada, it's pretty great for our community. The other thing that they had mentioned is that from the tourism committee is that this year was the best year they've ever had, specifically kind of at Red Mountain. So, I mean, Red Mountain is also our area, right? I mean, we all, tourism supports locally. And so it was incredible, just the amount of people we've had in our community and the impact on restaurants and hotels and everything. So it's been pretty outstanding. Also, we are now listed on the Kootenay Rockies tourism website. So you can actually pull Trail up as a provider on this tourism site now. So very exciting stuff happening in our community. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Any questions?
How many projected employment numbers? Did they give you? Any
30, kind of right out of the gates.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. As council rep, I attended the first regular meeting of 2023 of the Trail Historical Society. And then on the 16th, along with other councillors, attended their AGM, which there was a great presentation regarding the purchase of one of Seth Martin's original goalie masks. Just happened to be my uncle. I'm just going to throw that out there. It was really interesting. I knew about that, kind of knew a little bit about it, but it was really good to hear the story. So with other councillors, joined a Zoom meeting on the 16th, also with BC Hydro, with explanation of the current water levels and the flow of the natural flow of the Columbia River. That was very interesting as well. And over the last 2 weeks, I've attended numerous regional district committee meetings, which the main focus right now is on the discussions of the 5-year working plans of each committee or each group and the initial draft budgets. So that concludes my report. If anybody has any questions.
No questions, comments? Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Wilson.
Your worship, thank you. My report tonight is focused on you guys down there. I just wanted to thank you guys for coming in. I know I appreciate it, the time that you take out to come here to show that you have a concern in what's going on. And I found those photos from Mr. Fisher to be very powerful because it gives us a sense of reality that's going on in the streets that, you don't feel it in a boardroom. It's heated in here, we're inside, we don't get a sense of that. So I just want to thank you guys for coming down. I hope that's a trend that continues on with these meetings. I think it's good for us and also good for you guys. So thank you. Appreciate that. That's it for my report.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. And just to add to Councillor Wilson's comments, he's, correct. We haven't been able to do these kind of meetings open to the public. So we're excited to be able to have you guys come in and just talk to us about what's going on and letting us know what's happening out there. So thank you for coming in. And any questions, other questions for Councillor Wilson? No? Okay. Okay, so my report, because we seem to be out and about so much together, doing different things. I tried to find some things that we haven't touched on during the meeting tonight. Since our last council meeting, as a board director for the Kootenay Boundary Local Government, we've met several times preparing for the convention in April in Cranbrook. So we have a theme. Our theme for the convention will be Strong Together. And as of this morning, most of the agenda and program has been decided on. We're just waiting confirmation of the guest speaker before we can send that out. As most council has mentioned, our meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Minister Kang, was very successful, showing her the library museum and having the opportunity to walk her up and down our streets and show her what's happening on the streets and our struggle for supportive housing, and having the opportunity to, she stopped and I introduced herself to some of our outreach nurses who explained what they were doing at the shelter and the work that they do. And it was great information for her. And she actually thanked me for doing that because she was really interested in the work that they did. And it was good for her staff to see that too. And like I said before, I actually wanted to see her to see what was happening in our community. So when we did call or email or, reached out for grants or ideas of, what's the next move? How do we move forward for housing? What can you tell us, what direction to go in? And I think that it really resonated with her. We walked her by the world's famous colander. And I was explaining to her the history of it. And she was saying that they were going to Nelson that night for dinner. But you know what? They might come back and have colander. It was kind of cute. Anyway, I hope she did. So it was a very good meeting. January 18th, I had two meetings with the Trail and Health and Environment Committee. The first meeting was the Air Quality Working Group. And the second one was with the Trail Health and Environment Program. So I was invited to attend the meeting and meet the team that is working on the environment program and actually to see the work that they've been doing for our community. I joined in on a workshop and it was a workshop of where they were assessing, where they started in the program and where we are today. And for those of who don't know, the Trail Health and Environment Program works to reduce community exposure to lead and other smelter metals by improving air quality and supporting family health. I also, for more information, you can visit their website at thep.ca, or you can call them at 250-368-3256. I also had a meeting with John Estrelaya, the president and CEO of Columbia Basin Trust, invited me to his office for a meet and greet. He did share with me that the Columbia Basin Trust will be holding 3 symposiums this year, and Trail has been chosen to be one of the cities, along with Cranbrook and Golden. So save the date for June the 9th and the 10th. Registration and the agenda will be coming out soon. This morning, I attended a Zoom meeting with Interior Health and the mayors within Interior Health. So there was about 55 of us. This is the second meeting of this kind and that I've attended. And the conversation today was around staffing in Interior Health. The decriminalization date for certain drugs is coming up in February. And we will be getting the slideshow that they presented sent to me. So I'll be sharing that with council. It's a very good slideshow. And they also talked about complex care housing and how certain communities are able to access it. New complex care housing is opening in Kelowna and Kamloops at this time. This afternoon, I met with Maggie Matier, President and CEO of the Selkirk College. And we just had a little meet and greet. I asked her about the clinic, if they're still looking at student housing. And she's just said that they have a plan and it's before government at this time. So that was a little bit of exciting news that, she couldn't share too much, but that was good to hear that they're still looking at the opportunity there. And that's my report. Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you. I think today was my busiest day. I had Zoom meetings this morning. What's going on? Okay, so item number 6, the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda, and the recommendations is that the items on the consent agenda be received for information. Can I have someone make that motion, please? Councillor Hanson, Councillor Butler, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Any new business from council? No? Okay. Department reports. So tonight, we do have two reports in front of you. And the recommendation is that these reports be received for information. Can I have someone make that? Thank you, Councillor Cashel and Councillor Martin. All those in favor? Thank you, carried unanimously. And last item on the agenda is adjournment. Councillor Benson, is there a seconder? Councillor Wilson, all those in favor? Thank you, carried unanimously.